So, good afternoon, esteemed guests, panelists, and distinguished members of the audience. My name is Olia Tsivitanidou. I'm the Managing Director of Inquirium, and alongside I have my co-moderator, Christina Achilleos. She's the CEO of InnoEUsphere. I'm honored to welcome you in this panel discussion. We extend our sincere gratitude to our panelists for lending their expertise in today's conversation. Each one of you bring a different perspective that will greatly enrich our understanding on today's pressing issues related to sustainability, STEM, and circular economy. We anticipate a thought-provoking dialogue that will inspire actionable solutions for the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, the subject of our panel today is timely, urgent, innovation for a sustainable future, the intersection of STEM, circular economy, and EU-funded initiatives for a better future. In a world dealing with environmental challenges, with resource scarcity and social inequity, the need for a multi-phased approach to sustainable development is evident. In our panel, we want to discuss how STEM intersects with the transformative framework of circular economy. We will spotlight how EU-funded projects also act as catalysts, advancing innovations and solutions that contribute to a more sustainable and equitable future. So we will hear today perspectives from academia, government, the industry, illustrating the multi-phased applications and implications of STEM and circular economy principles. From municipal initiatives to advanced academic research, from policy formulations to industrial practices, the discourse today seeks to navigate the complex landscape of sustainability. Of course, our objective today is not just to hear your perspectives and views, but also to try to identify actionable steps that can bring these pioneering concepts to readiness.
Thank you very much, Olia. So, welcome. My name is Christina Achilleos. I'm the founder and director of InnoEUsphere, working along EU-funded projects and programs for many years now. So, I would like to welcome on stage our international panel of speakers. We're very happy to have you with us. We have Dr. Alexandros Charalambides, Associate Professor from the Cyprus University of Technology. Alexandros, welcome. We have Mr. Manuel Munes, all the way from Portugal, and we're very honored to have him with us. He's the Deputy Mayor of Lusada, a city which is showing evident signs of sustainability through actionable projects. So, welcome, Manuel. We have Mr. Demetris Petrides, representing the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, especially the Circular Economy Unit. So, welcome, Demetris. A real pleasure to have you with us. We have Xenia Karekla, all the way from the UK. She's a sustainable urban mobility consultant. She has a lot of experience, and we're really happy to have her with us. Welcome, Xenia. And we have Andreas representing KIOS Center of Excellence. He's a research lecturer. So, as Olia said already, we're going to have like a discussion with representatives from the academia, the industry, the municipalities, in a very, very interesting and cutting-edge topic of innovation, STEM, and EU-funded projects. So I would like to start this conversation with Manuel. As I said, the city of Lusada is a pioneer in sustainability, implementing projects that are stemming actually from participatory methods, esteemed and awarded from the European Union. So, Manuel, I would like to kindly ask you to share, first of all, some examples of your initiatives at the municipality that were undertaken to drive sustainability and circular economy, and perhaps share with us, one example that's standing out that is really, really important.
Okay, so thank you for having me. It's an honor. So first of all, we started this 10 years ago, and we decided to involve the community, bring it back to basics. I mean, to start it, we decided as well that less sometimes is more, because we were facing a difficult time at the time, so during the crisis. So, and we decided to start to implement projects with the community, starting with what connects the community to the landscape, to the land itself, and as a community. So, and for that, we went for the assets that we had in the cultural heritage, or traditions, or local cultural aspects, because that's what connects people to what they have. So all the innovation, all the transformation that we decided to implement started with that. Okay, so using what we already have instead of having a revolution, starting something new. So, and what we had, several kind of projects, just 2 or 3, just very quickly. One of them has started with organic waste management. So in order to allow people to do their compost at home and using it to local farmers and getting discounts with the vegetable markets by doing so. So there were no money involved, only this circular process, you know, using it locally. Very easy to go, it worked well. Another project, very interesting one, has to do with keeping urban areas good and, you know, thriving with biodiversity. And in order to do so, we founded a way to actually pay people to keep the trees alive and keep it standing in their gardens as a way to, you know, to just help the problems that we have in urban areas with pollution and carbon sinks and all of that. So it was very interesting as well. But the one project that we might have that changed the way that local assets can be used has to do with energy production. We decided to, in 2017, we cut down to half the emissions that we had with public lighting. We were spending €1 million a year in public lighting, so we changed the system for the LED system. And the savings allowed us to invest in more efficient systems, you know, buildings, public buildings and all of that. And as well, try to innovate in the production of sustainable energies. In this case, we chose to do it with a hydric system, you know, water. Not that we have that much water, like you, but we decided to use a local thing that we have, that our water mills, that were abandoned for 30, 40, 50 years, and by inventorying them, you know, knowing what they are, who the owners are, we decided to work with them, with the owners and the, you know, this asset, this cultural heritage that we have, in order to produce energy. This is nothing new, okay, has been done in other places. What is new here is that we used some of the money that we were not using for public lighting to invest in a development of turbines fixed for those kind of mills, because it's not a vertical turbine, it's a horizontal one, so it's very different. And we did that with the academia, we did that with the local, well, not exactly local, but some of the companies that were working in that area. And why did we choose the mills? Because culturally, people were closely connected to them. There are many stories, many traditions linked to them, and people just found it as a good idea, actually, to restore and to revive some of these mills in order to produce energy. The other thing that was interesting is that with very few, I would say, amounts of investment, we could find a long-term viable system to produce energy. Like 50,000 euros would be enough to put into production a water mill, and for the next 10 euros you would get the payback. It would enough as well to feed like 1,000 households for a year. And the other thing is, it only produces energy during wintertime, most of the time, and early spring. That could be a problem. But also, it's an opportunity, because it is exactly when solar panels are not working properly. So you can fix that problem by introducing the energy from the water that you have in winter. And the good thing is, it worked. People got engaged. Some of the mills were restored for cultural and touristic purposes as well. Another interesting thing is that the miller's profession was brought back, because there's a huge demand of flour made with gritting stones in a traditional way. So the market itself was starting to grow alongside with this new gritting stones that we were working with the mills. So alongside with that, the agricultural system developed as well, the traditional way of all cereals that were brought back. So the landscape alongside the mills and the riverbanks was restored in a traditional way. And let's say, because of the pressure from tourists and people who would come and see those mills and schools and the community itself, we were forced in a good way to restore even the riverbanks. So what we have, because of only the mills that were restored to produce energy, is actually a transformation in the landscape. Engaging the community, engaging landowners, bringing money, bringing new jobs, and just a very simple thing. And the good thing is you can do that as well, because you have water mills in Cyprus. I don't know if you know that. You have like 600 water mills in Cyprus in total, so it can be done everywhere. And it's actually very simple, very easygoing, and it brings back something to the community, because that's what we aim as a municipality.
I find it really great and interesting that you have identified an element that connects to the culture of the people, and you have reintroduced a solution connecting culture and sustainability at the same time. So you reinforce actually a social change, which has an identity link, which is really, really interesting. So speaking about the engagement of local community and knowing that Xenia has been involved in planning of urban mobility solutions for many years now, Xenia, would you like to share your experience on the importance of engaging the local community during the planning phase of proposing sustainability solutions? And from your experience, what was the actual impact with working with people into developing and planning these solutions?
Yeah, sure. Is this too close? Is it too loud? Thank you all for being here, first of all. So, interventions designed to achieve change are traditionally designed for people. But a systematic problem that we see in the process is that they are not designed with people. So essentially, the end user is suddenly finding themselves in a situation of having to accept, and actually adopt an intervention when it's implemented. But this is actually a very risky attempt, because as evidence has shown, when an intervention is not designed with the people in mind, or with them consulted actually, it is very likely to fail, because the people are going to try it, decide whether it suits their needs and what they want to do in their daily living, and if they decide that it does not, then they will drop it and quickly go back to their previous habits. So essentially designing sustainable systems without considering what people want to do in their everyday life or what their capabilities are is essentially a waste of resources and opportunity. So if we were to imagine a sustainable system, let's say there is a huge discussion about a tram system in Nicosia, for example. Imagine that this system is designed, beautiful layout, beautiful stations, announcement boards, technologically perfect. But once it's put out there and people are ready to use it, they realize actually that it does not serve their needs. So it does not connect places that they want, where they want to meet their families, their friends, where they want to go to work. So this amazing tram system that had all potential to be successful, it's actually an empty object that is moving around the city, and it's taking up space from other urban functions. So just to give you a tangible example, I was recently involved in a project where we needed to, we were going through a feasibility study of a mobility hub system for a wider area that was covering multiple municipalities. So I was brought into this project to design public consultation and stakeholder engagement. And just before I was about to facilitate the workshops, the leading municipality decided that they didn't want to go with that approach. They instead decided to engage with each stakeholder separately, to essentially present to them parts of the project that would get them hooked. They didn't say that, obviously, but that was the idea. And then in terms of people, they said that they wanted to consult the individual mayors, because, as they said, they knew their constituencies' needs better. Now, the feasibility study has finished, but the project has not been implemented. but we cannot imagine what is going to happen once it's implemented, right? So the stakeholders are going to identify the things that they agreed on, but they will have conflicting ideas about the other things that were never introduced to them, and the local communities might find some needs that are being accommodated, but for sure they know better what they want compared to the mayor. To leave you on a positive note, though, I was also involved in another project about an accessibility threshold because hospitalization was very high. People were getting injured because of high acceleration on the bus system. And I turned to the international literature to see what other academics were doing for similar problems. And I realized that they were only engaging young and older participants in their experiments with the explanation that middle-aged group participants would behave in a similar way as either group. But I wanted the result of my work to be representative of the entire adult population, so I included them in my experimental work. I got them included in, I asked them to participate in experiments and answer to questionnaires. So I used the qualitative and quantitative data to analyze what they were doing. So what I realized is that the middle-aged group was behaving physically like the older group, whereas what they were telling me in the questions that they were answering, they were presenting to me a part of themselves that they wanted to be, so that was matching with the younger group. But if I did not include them in the work, I wouldn't know that. So basically what I'm trying to say is that who are we designing for to ensure a sustainable future? Are we designing for younger people, older people, men, women? In my opinion, we should be designing for the person, regardless of their age, gender, or physical capabilities, even economic status, and all of that differentiates us essentially.
Definitely, I mean, very challenging to design on a personal level, but it's very, very interesting, and I think that is a clear opportunity for all key stakeholders to work on that direction. So thank you, Xenia, for sharing this important insight with us. Now I'm going to move on to Alexandros. Alexandra, you're working a lot with research and innovation projects. You are actually, let's say, here representing the STEM field, in a sense, from the academia point of view. So having Xenia talked about the projects that they are designing and implementing from the industry, what is your experience as a representative from the academia working with the industry? And on an additional note, what has been your experience so far into implementing sustainability through EU-funded projects, since you are, as I said, working a lot with R&I at the university?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with both for the participatory approach. And it's very hard to ask the right questions to get the right answers. And I totally agree, for example, for the tram, I think it's the biggest useless thing that they have in our national energy and climate plan. It will never materialize, it will never be used. We can discuss this later on. And as an example, I'll ask you a question. How many of you took the bus to come here to this event? How many took one? How many took their car to come to this event?
I was driven.
Yeah, okay, so
I took even the plane. So.
Even a plane, yes. So a lot of times we've seen that as well. For example, we had a project to design the research and innovation aspect of the National Energy and Climate Plan. And we went to about 20 governmental departments and we asked them, what is your main problem? Why haven't you solved this problem? Always energy and climate. Why haven't you solved it? What do you need? And the biggest surprise we had is that no one has ever asked them that question. So how do you expect to design a proper national plan without consulting even the departments within the government that at some point will need to materialize that? And it's the same problem that usually when you do a PhD and you become an academic, it means that you're good at school, you followed rules, you did well in exams because you followed rules, you did your bachelor, your master, you're good at it because you follow rules, and then you were afraid to go and get a job, so you stayed in academia and did a PhD, right? Don't answer. So you stayed and did a PhD, and again you were...
Or you commit suicide and you go to politics.
Yeah, even worse. So you stayed there, and you are not connected with either the industry or the citizens or the people or whoever is going to use your technology. And that's one of the biggest problems of the researchers. Some of the times they don't solve the problems of the cities or think about projects that the city might want, and so on and so on. And this is where the innovative projects come in place. We always try to do the participatory approach. Go and talk with people. Get out of your lab. And that's actually what we tell our students. Or one of the things I did, I founded Chrysalis Lib, which is a clean tech accelerator. And the only thing we tell people, I don't care about your technology. I don't care if it saves the environment. I don't care if it saves energy. What do people want? Something cheap and something convenient. Go and talk to them, find what their need is, and try to solve that. And thankfully, the EU and a lot of the new projects is actually focusing on that, and they understand this part of it, that it's not just doing research for the sake of research or innovation for the sake of innovation. Downside, you can, as you said with the 2 studies, I can always talk to the people that will give me the answer I want. So that's something that we need to be careful as academics.
Okay, as a conclusion from the 3 speakers till now, I think that we really need to consider why we're not asking these questions up until this point, right? I mean, we're all designing projects, implementing, but still excluding people, so we really need to...
Yes. No, I don't care about your project. I don't care about the buses. I don't care about windmills. You know, we need to ask the hard questions.
So let's move on to Demetris, representing here the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, especially the Circular Economy Unit. So briefly, Demetri, what are you doing at this moment as a ministry in order to promote STEM sustainability and circular economy, and whether you feel that you are trying to connect with academia, the citizens in this unified effort, let's say?
Thank you for having us here, Christina and Olia. Thank you for inviting us here into this great panel. And actually, after the reply from Alexandros, this is quite a bit of her, but let me try to reply. As a ministry, actually, we have, as already Alexandros said, we have a lot of action plans. We have actually the new industrial policy, which is based on 6 priorities, which brings together everything from the industry. We have also the National Circular Economy Action Plan, which its main purpose is to promote circular economy, and we're trying to educate people in what circular economy is and how we can achieve this transition. So we do have a lot of experience into creating these action plans, because we brought together several ministers actually, and we brought together also organizations, federation, we brought together academia, a lot of the basic stakeholders of our ecosystem. But this is actually a very good point from Alexandros, that we have to ask the right questions, because we are building all of these action plans, but we have to go out to the people and ask, what do you actually need? And this is a crucial element, because we need the collaboration. We need the collaboration between the ministries, we need the collaboration between and internally in the government. I mean, I have to ask the other ministries, what are you doing for this thing? How can we help you? And how can you help us? And also, I have to go out and ask the industries, do you think that this circular economy action plan is right for you? Do you think that it will fit your needs? Because we are already implementing a lot of actions which we are not really sure what the impact will be. But we do have the will to to ask. We do have the will to implement things. We have the will to change some things.
Okay, this is very encouraging.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're trying to do it actually.
Okay.
And to conclude with this, we do have the tools, we do have the will, so we all have to come together and create this new environment to succeed to this transition for circular economy.
And now, thank you, Demetris. And now let's see how precious funding has helped a real, let's say, sustainability project. So, Andreas, you were awarded the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action Individual Fellowship for Research on Power Systems, right? So, briefly share with us how this funding has supported your research and what impact do you believe it will have in the future towards this, sustainability effort that obviously we are all into it, still trying to adapt to it, but we are, on a way to achieve it. So,
thank you, Christina. Thank you also for inviting me for this session. So, a few years ago, back in 2019, I was considering, contemplating mostly, coming back to Cyprus, and well, through this consideration, I applied for a Marie Curie fellowship. So these fellowships, just to mention, require people to move from one country to another. So at that time I was in the UK. It was just 1 year after I finished my PhD studies. So it was a way for me to come into Cyprus, and it allowed me to work on a project which was my idea, which was something that. Sorry, is that okay now? Sorry about this. So it allowed me. Is it okay? Yeah. So it allowed me to work on a research project which was based on my own idea, and helped me to become an independent person as a researcher. Mm-hmm. But also it gave me a lot of opportunity to collaborate with people, because it allowed me to do visits, and I tried to do one in academia, where I established a collaboration with a university in Netherlands. But also with the industry. So I had the opportunity to spend 3 months last year with a distribution system operator in Cyprus. So allowed me to take practical considerations on how, let's say, academic research could be implemented in reality, in practice. Furthermore, it helped me to advance my career and helped me to secure a faculty position at the center I'm currently working, which is the KIOS Center of Excellence. I also want to say a few things about what this project was and how it can affect the sustainability aims that are pursued. So in order to go forward to this green transition, a significant aim is to have a significant penetration from renewable energy sources in our electricity network. Cyprus is committed, for example, to have 800 megawatts by 2030, so this is a significant portion of, let's say, the peak demand of Cyprus. However, the grids now face significant issues due to the introduction of these renewable energy sources. And these problems arise because of two issues. One is because renewable energy sources are intermittent, so the generation is not controllable and it's hard to predict. And second, the introduction of these units removes, let's say, bulk conventional generation, creating inertia issues in the grid. So the same fault that 10 years ago might go unnoticed now might create a significant issue in the power grid. So what the project was about was to have demand response schemes by implementing suitable controllers in thermostatic units. Thermostatic units are like air conditioners or refrigerators, such that when an event happens, this is timely detected in a local level, so without requiring to communicate the existence of the event. And have this load switch off for a brief period of time, which is a few minutes, which has the ability to potentially save the power grid from collapsing. And this without affecting the user's utility. So I do believe that such approaches have the potential to enhance the robustness of the power grid and help it towards becoming greener and more sustainable in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Andreas. So now we will move to the second part of our discussion. I think we have all agreed that we are, in a need to reinforce these participatory methods in terms of STEM and sustainability and reinforcing this model. So now let's move on to examining challenges, opportunities, and suggestions for the future. Olia will moderate the second part of the discussion.
Thank you, Christina. So I was about to say the same thing, that the key takeaway that I take from this first round is that in order to have real impact, we need to engage the community, the local community, the people that we are targeting. And also, if I may say, that we need maybe to have a close collaboration between academia, industry, and the government. So as Christina said, now let's focus on the challenges and opportunities that arise in this fusion of STEM, circular economy, and sustainability. And I invite you also to suggest ideas that can be translated into effective policy measures if possible. So let's start with Mr. Manuel Nunes. I would like to ask you, Mr. Nunes, if you can elaborate on the different approaches to sustainable development that you follow. Specifically, how do you meaningfully engage people in this change towards sustainable development? What challenges and opportunities do you foresee, and what are the steps forward, particularly in the context of educational programs?
Yeah, that's the million euro question, how to engage people. Well, first of all, let me explain. I don't know if there are any politicians in the room. No, good, because I am one, so I'm sorry for that. But being a politician means that you need to answer questions all the time and pose questions. So I trust that what you said is true, and I know many people that don't like to answer questions because it's difficult. But if you're in a position like I am, you need to be prepared to answer questions, and you go for the questions, because that's how you change things. So having this in mind, our approach, engaging people, started with, obviously, we need to know where we stand, so kind of an X-ray. So what do we have? Where are the opportunities? Local-based projects, maybe, because that's how people engage easily with local things that they know. What are the strengths? I mean, are there decision makers that are good to follow? Are there local opinion makers or community leaders that you can follow? So first of all, this kind of X-ray allowed us, at least from where I come from, and it's a 50,000 people community, that we had these opportunities, and now how can we just use them? So first of all, there is an issue when it comes to environmental talks or speaks or whatever it is, that is the language. Okay, most of the time people don't know what we're talking about. Okay, there's an issue with literacy, environmental literacy. That's an issue, a big one, because we can say whatever we want. They usually don't know what we're talking about, because we at this level, when usually they are at this level. It's what we are, but talking about common people most of the time. So we need to lose the dictionary. People need to lose it because they need to understand what we are talking about. So we need to communicate clearly, effectively, and use the right words, not fancy words, not very elaborated speeches, but just common things that people understand and engage with. Obviously, there's another thing that we need to do as a politician, for instance. We need to maybe lose the suits and the ties. Most of the time we use just fancy appearances and all of that, but people don't engage with something, they just feel apart. So we need to lose that and make people feel equal in our approach, because if they feel equal, they will engage more easily with what we are preaching in a good sense, let's say. And then obviously, if we have 50,000 people in the community, we cannot talk individually with 50,000 people. Cannot go and knock on each one's doors. I tried, it's very difficult, I might say. So you actually don't have to. If you engage 150 local leaders, you will reach eventually the 50,000. So the key people you need to engage is the key answer to engage everyone else. So you need to know, pinpoint them, engage them, maybe have lots of meetings and talks, and maybe they will do the job. And we did it, and it worked. Not with the 50,000, because that's impossible, but let's say 30,000 people, 25,000, depending on the situations. We're engaged in different levels. So obviously this contagious is in a good sense. It allows people, starting from that pinpointing leader of the communities, to start this debating processes, this participatory process, like youth assemblies. We're always talking about youth don't care, but they do care. We just need to ask them. We just need to engage them. We need to allow them and give them space to act. Neighbor assemblies or democratic assemblies, whatever we want. And you can engage everyone, politicians, obviously, different parties, naturally, religious people coming from the church, or community leaders, whatever, NGOs. So by doing that, probably you will have more the YIMBY effect instead of the NIMBY effect. I mean, no one wants to do things in their backyard if they don't understand what we're talking about. So in order to engage people, you need to have the suitable programs, the suitable projects, let's say, to make them take part and feel that what they are doing actually is making a difference. Because that's maybe the last thing that the first thing that we want, but the last thing that we usually tend to see is what we are doing actually has a positive effect. So this transformation, this action towards transformation can be measured if people actually take, action in their hands. And I've seen it. 10 years ago, there was zero involvement locally, 0% when we started in 2013. And now, just an example, a short one, we created a protected area. That is some difficult thing to do in Portugal because of the landowners, of what you name it, so many difficult things. And we started with people, we asked them, do you want the protected area? If yeah, if you want, why? If you're not, why? And so on and so on. It took us 1 year. I had like 50 different meetings with more than 1,000 people, personally, with everywhere, talking, discussing, asking, answering, whatever. And by the end of that year, we came with this collective decision that we needed a protected area, and we wanted to manage it this way, and this way, and this way, because people said so. And it was approved locally, with the political parties all voting in favor. So by doing this, we proved to ourselves and to local, and to the region, that it is possible to change the way we do things and to engage people that is so difficult if we actually just ask people and just let them do what maybe they are willing to do, but no one just asked them before or invited them before. Just come, do with us. Final note, we planted, for the last 4 or 5 winters, 120,000 trees, only with volunteers. 120,000. Yeah, 120,000 trees. We had 12,000 volunteers locally. Before, we had 0. 12,000 volunteers, more than 40,000 hours of free volunteer. That's like €500,000 if we would pay for this. You know why? Because they want to. No one forced them. We asked them, do you want to join us? And they came because they understood that their action makes a difference because of this. So this is how we do it, and it's been, well, successful so far.
So thank you very much for the insightful contributions. And indeed, it's very important to first make sure that we speak the same language with the people, that they understand, to have to have literate people, environmental literally, to understand the language, and also to motivate them and to make them appreciate that if they are actively involved, then this involvement has an effect in the actions and the change that they want to see. So I would like now to turn to Dr. Xenia Karekla, and building on the notions shared about the community engagement and education. Xenia, can you please elaborate into the specific challenges and opportunities in implementing sustainable urban mobility, and how can these concepts be harmonized to create a more sustainable and participative urban environment?
Manuel, I think I'm turning into a politician because some of parts of my answer are very aligned to what you just said. Oh God. Yeah, it's a good thing you said. Okay. Maybe. So for me, the main challenge that we have is essentially understanding what sustainability means. I see a huge mismatch between societal needs, government implementations, and international actions. Local and federal, if you like, governments are putting policies in place to essentially make sustainable transport modes like buses and trains and active travel more attractive to people and putting them on a higher pedestal in the mode hierarchy. But it's pretty obvious that the vision is falling short. But if I were to take you back a little bit, sustainability was firstly introduced 40 years ago. And only just recently, during COP26, we were internationally essentially shocked. We needed to hear that 1.5 degrees Celsius that were putting us on the verge of life and death to actually think that we need to act because we have no more time, essentially. But COP26 happened in 2021. We are 2 years later now, so are we on track? No. Not at all. We are not. We are not on track, Manuel. Yeah, so governments are facing a real challenge right now. So prior to COVID, people were moving, the sustainable modes that people were choosing were like I said, the bus, the train, the tram, and all of those. But those modes are profitable for a government. Whereas post-COVID, we see more people choosing to stay at home, work from home, therefore choosing not to travel, or they choose to walk, especially in Western societies at least, where I live. They choose to walk more for shorter distances or to use their bicycle for a bit longer distances within their neighborhood. But those transport modes are not profitable for a government. Are they going to put tax on walking? No, they cannot do that. But those modes are chosen by people. So there is a clear mismatch between the two. If we touch on the technological aspect of it, we see that electric vehicles are a super hot topic at the moment. And all the forces are directed towards the automotive industry. Governments are urging to put the necessary infrastructure in place so that electric vehicles can be accommodated when people start to use them in masses, essentially. Or local authorities are not providing permissions for developments that are not including electric vehicles. What we do as a ministry, we're trying to promote circular economy. We're trying to raise awareness. We have a really big effort underway with a communication plan to raise awareness really around circular economy. And also we are now preparing a funding scheme for SMEs in order to help them with their transition.
Thank you, Demetris. So it's a multi-phased approach that we need to follow. It's not just in infrastructural, but also cultural and educational shifts that we need to follow in addition to the financial aspect that you mentioned. Thank you very much. Now I'm turning to Dr. Alexandros Charalambides, extending the discussion on the EU-funded initiatives. So you have previously elaborated on how EU funding has influenced your research, particularly in projects focused on sustainability and circular economy. Now, could you please offer your insights on what improvements or changes could be made to existing EU funding programs to better facilitate such research?
Is this recorded?
Yes, it is, probably. Transparency.
Okay, before I answer that, how to ask the right question and what is sustainability is a very important question. For example, to save the environment, the government of Cyprus will ban air conditioning. No one is allowed to put air conditioning anymore.
No population.
No one will take that. But yet
Not survive.
yeah, but this is also people, and there are people that will be in favor of that. People are in favor of not eating meat because it's bad for the environment. To ban cars because it's for the environment. Others will go say, let's tax everything. I don't have a problem, I'm rich. Touch planes, touch meat, you know, tax them as much as you want, I'm okay. The youth or the unemployed will have a bad times and energy poverty. Put another 10 cents on the air conditioning, I don't care, I will pay for it. I'm not going to live without it. The only way to do this is to spend money on real innovation that will actually solve the problem of burning fuel to have an air conditioning, which, by the way, I'm freezing, by the way, I don't know about you, but it's too cold for me. So what the EU should do is, yes, it's a problem of money, it's a problem of resources, it's a problem of we're not enough sometimes. Yes, you should give a lot more money, but that sometimes will just fund mediocre research. You should only focus on excellence and stuff that will actually solve the problem. So that's one recommendation. Another problem, if I can call a barrier, is that with Andreas, we were trying to solve the same problem. I didn't know Andreas existed until 5 minutes ago, and Andreas didn't know about me because we're both so embedded in the bureaucracy of our work that I need to do a deliverable, I need to tick a box, I need to do this, I need to do the other. I haven't ticked. So you lose the focus, which is to solve the problem. A deliverable will not solve the problem. All it does, it proves the EU that my money didn't go to waste. The same with governmental funding. So another recommendation I would have is decrease the bureaucracy, but increase the money the private sector should put. Do you want a bus here? Fine, 50% will come from you. I will give you the other 50%. You want your research on predictive modeling and grid integration? Fine. Get EAC, get someone else to give you 50%. I'll give you the other 50%. No question asked as much as you spend. And that's something that works in the US. In Cyprus and Europe in general, we like our forms because it's a lot easier to tick a box. And that's why I'm good at EU projects, because I'm good at ticking boxes. As I said, I follow rules.
That's true. A lot of ticking in boxes. Thank you very much for the suggestions. And now I will move on to Andreas again. Your work in power networks makes you uniquely situated to address the interface between research and policy. So what kind of policy measures do you believe would be most effectively drive research and development forward in STEM fields for sustainability? And could you please provide some examples from your own field of research?
Thank you for the question. I want to first say I also agree with Alexandros' comment. I believe that there is a room for improvement in how academics spend their time on doing their research. But I want to say that the aim for sustainability calls for strong research and development. And I'm happy to say that during my time in Cyprus, I see progress in this. Due to many ways. I mean, due to the creation of like the Ministry of Innovation, and also because now many institutions in Cyprus are aiming to have collaborations. Like many ministries, for example, now are collaborating with centers for research and innovation. So there are steps going forward. However, I do believe that there is still significant room for improvement, and I want to focus on three things. So one thing is on the centers, on how we can have research and innovation in Cyprus. Another is how we can bring research into market and how we can support startups. And the third is how the government can support a collaborative framework. So in terms of research and innovation centers, I mean, I'm well suited to talk about because I'm in one of these centers. I mean, I'm within KIOS Center of Excellence, which now employs 200 people, and a significant portion of which now work on projects related with sustainability. So I do believe that one way these centers are very important because they can bring together experts from both academia, from research, but also from the industry. And they allow to bring ideas. So, and like understand the practical challenges of taking them and innovate towards taking these ideas into the actual market. And this is very important because now we see the impact of this research in Cyprus, and especially towards transitioning to a green economy. So some policies that how the state can support centers. I mean, of course, the obvious answer is funding. So how they can sustain the sustainability of the centers to do this. But I believe that some targeted approaches will be very beneficial in this way. One problem that now Cyprus has is the lack of a sufficiently large number of well-trained graduates. So I do believe that funding suitable graduate training programs for students that will allow to have, like, in the next few years, a good number of people that are well-trained and can appreciate the challenges towards moving to sustainability is very important. Another thing that I believe that the state can support is by encouraging open data sharing. So sharing the data that electricity companies have, such as, for example, the Electricity Authority of Cyprus, or energy data that are privately used. And this is also in line with the open access policies that Cyprus has also agreed. And this is very important to enhance both the outcomes of research and also of innovation. Another thing that I believe that Cyprus is lacking is about exploiting intellectual property. So this is something that, again, there are improvements in the last years, but still there is not a structured way for an academic that has some possibly exploitable ideas to go this. And having support from the government towards having a direction on how they can secure their intellectual property, how we can exploit them, can be significant motivation. The last, I believe that having modern laboratories and having the funding to create and sustain these laboratories is very important in order to test research into a practical setting.
Thank you, Andreas. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time. So I would like to thank everyone for your valuable contributions, insights, sharing your experience and expertise and practical examples. As a conclusion from my side, this is a personal comment here, is that maybe we should start, let's say, moving from making sustainability a catchy trend to action. I think this is what we really need at this moment. So on behalf of myself and Olia, thank you very much. And we really hope that there will be significant steps towards progress of achieving sustainability in the future. Alexander, you wanna?
No, just thank you.
Thank you very much.